Apologies for the crappy sound quality and the hair, but let's just go for it. Let's make it look like an M. I just got back from the gym here, and I'm working on my unfinished office. It's in my garage. It's going to be a study, but look, I can see the lake there. So listen, first off, I appreciate everyone who came out to the rally in Michigan. And obviously no show today. We'll be doing the VP debate. Megyn Kelly will be there for pre-gaming. I know some of you may not be fans, but considering that she hosted some debates before, I think she'll have some insight. This is one of those topics now where I see a lot of you out there. I see a lot of conservatives, and I see a lot of left-wingers, but particularly a lot of conservatives find themselves hopeless or motivated. They really rise and fall by the polls. And it's a question that I probably get asked the most often lately is, should we trust the polls? And you know what the truth is? I don't know. And let me offer you some personal anecdotes here, particularly as it relates to Lansing, because that's about all we have to go on. I shouldn't say all we have to go on, but the polls have been consistently unreliable. Let me start with this. Is there still a secret Trump voter, right? This is something that people talk about quite a bit. Well, they've accounted for this secret Trump voter they didn't account for in 2016. I don't know. I think there are more. Because back in 2016, while we knew people hated Trump, you didn't get shot in the chest point blank for having a MAGA hat, right? You didn't get your businesses burned down. And I will say this, being in Michigan, I've been spending quite a bit of time here in Michigan. Again, this is anecdotal. I know at least half a dozen businesses that are Trump voters who had signs up in 2016 who don't have them up now. And I know more people personally who had Trump signs up who don't have it up now. There was actually a beautiful barn here in rural Michigan that had a full MAGA display homage there. And now it's just painted red with an American flag. By the way, I've also noticed that it's either a Biden-Harris sign or an American flag, one or the other. And I'm sure there are exceptions. So should we trust the polls? Here's the most important thing. Don't allow your demeanor, your spirit, your grit to be determined by what somebody else tells you. Anyone who says that Trump is absolutely going to win in a landslide, you shouldn't trust these polls, I completely discount for the same reason that I discount people who say Trump has no chance. Look at the polls. The truth lies somewhere in the middle. And if you look at the electoral map, and I'll tell you this, I was as surprised as anyone who, sorry, my hand and finger name, my finger's getting sore. Why does that happen? Is it something from my hair? This is, look, I accidentally got the Devon Sawa. No, lead pipe is going to go straight through the back of my head. Someone got that film reference. I was really shocked to see Michigan go red. And I will tell you what I have seen in Michigan. We've seen a changing of the map, but not necessarily a changing of the states. In Michigan, the people who consistently voted Democrat, right, the union voters, and by the way, the unions still give overwhelmingly to Democrats, and it's if you look at, I think you can go to Open Secrets and see the top political donors of all time. Unions are far and away the top political donors. I mean, Big Oil doesn't even crack, I don't think, the top 10. So the heads of the unions themselves give 98 to 100% Democrats. Which also tells you, just like the media, they're not representative of their constituency, because I see a lot of working class factory line union voters now who are ultimately Trump supporters. But the people who are supporting Biden-Harris in Michigan now are what were once seen as Republicans, the Mitt Romneys. Let's be honest, Mitt Romney, I mean, he claims Massachusetts is from Michigan, and then he just spotted a seat in Utah, and, you know, he got elected there because he was Mormon. Not to say anything against Mormons. I'm sure Mormons are just as disappointed with Romney as I am, but he specifically sought out a place where he could win a seat in Utah. But the Romneys and the Rick Snyders of the world, former Republican governor of Michigan, have endorsed Biden. He made a lot of his money, I believe, at Dell. So the rich elite are supporting Biden-Harris, and the working class in Michigan tend to be supporting Donald Trump. So there is a switching, which I think is pretty hard to monitor with the polls. And let me tell you this too. Something anecdotal, but you know, I don't do a lot of press, and I did some more press for this Lansing rally because you know it was near and dear to my heart. I have a 97-year-old grandma in Michigan, and by the way, hashtag Whitmer death toll. Let's send all of our freedom of information requests to Governor Whitmer to get those numbers released. You can go to louderwithcrowder.com, get the signs printed out. So we held this rally in Lansing. You know, I don't really like to talk about numbers so much because we've seen so many conservatives and liberals who rise and fall by numbers. Look, we're the biggest show. Look at how many people are watching. Look at how great we are because of the polls, if you will. I think it's a metric that is important in that it sort of tells us how many lives we're affecting. But we could very easily make that the only metric and start affecting lives less. And let me explain what I mean. There have been opportunities, right, to syndicate the show, to get it out on cable, to change, in which case we have to change the dynamic of the show. Would we reach more people? Sure. Would we be able to make the same show? No, not at all. So I don't like to talk about numbers because I've had shows that have been really big or successful that I haven't necessarily been super happy with. And we've had small shows where I feel like we've really served you guys and Mug Club really well. But the Lansing rally happened, so I did a little bit more press, which is out of the ordinary for me because we don't really need to. We have enough of a platform. And we showed up and we did this Lansing rally and we gave out thousands of signs. And there was some coverage. And by the way, it wasn't really vicious from MLive. It was like the biggest Michigan publication, I think anyway, at least the biggest website. And then the Lansing State Journal. And first off, it shows you how inconsistent the media, like they just guess and they act as though they're authoritative. MLive said 1,000 people showed up to the Lansing rally. And then the Lansing State Journal said hundreds of people. Okay. Again, not that the numbers themselves matter. What matters is that these are considered authoritative sources. Listen, the low end estimate was at least 2,500. The high end was 3,500. We had professional security there, and we have someone who specializes in sort of head counting, doing groups. And I can tell you this. We printed out 1,070 signs. I know that because the Whitmer death toll signs were 1,000. I think we had 70 Wuhan Whitmer. They were gone immediately. And we had far more people who complained that they didn't get signs than people who even picked up signs. So we know you can go watch the video, at least 3,000 people. But this is what happens, right? You can look at the reporting from this writer at MLive, and I don't say this for you to go and attack them on Twitter or anything like that. I don't really harbor any ill will. It's sort of like, listen, when a child is misbehaving, it's the parent's fault. When a journalist is doing what journalists do, it's the fault of the publications. It's the fault of the industry. We really wish that journalists weren't what they be, but they do. So you see this in the media, and they cover hundreds, and then one says 1,000. And it was about 3,000 something people. Well, why would they do that? And by the way, I've seen quite a few signs, the Whitmer death toll signs, go up in Michigan. So Michiganders out there continue posting it. They put that up there because they want to demoralize people and think, well, there really aren't enough people who are rallying against this this little authoritarian that could, Governor Whitmer. You know what? So just really stay home because there's nothing going on here. There's nothing to see. So I will say this. I do think that, and this happens in my personal experience, and nearly every run-in we've had with media when they say they're looking to report on an issue, they're misleading, right? They're just not telling you the truth. You saw that with the Austin Chronicle. I can't remember all of them. I think it might have been a Washington Post article before Vox. The polls have become just as much of a tool to manipulate public opinion as they once were to reflect public opinion. Now, I don't know. This is anyone's game at this point. Maybe I'm rambling a little bit, but this is absolutely anyone's game. Anyone who tells you that there's a guaranteed win on either side is lying. They're not telling you the truth. No one can predict that. The Vegas betting odds can't predict that. Nate Silver couldn't predict it. Last time, a lot of people were wrong, and that's why I avoid making political predictions. And I tell you this, it doesn't change what I do. And it shouldn't change what you do. This is what I think is most important. Regardless of the polls going into the election, you need to vote. You need to mobilize people to vote in person, preferably, so you know it counts and it doesn't get tossed in a ditch somewhere. But let's say that Donald Trump loses. Like I said, I think it's anyone's game at this point. It doesn't change what you do. I was recently being interviewed by a reporter. He said, well, what happens, what are you going to do if Donald Trump loses? I said, well, think about this for a second. The leftist media, and the online left media, by the way, people like Vox and, I'm recording a cell phone video! No respect! No respect. Meatloaf! So, I think it actually might have been my dad. He needs my help doing something with a hammer. He's old, brittle hands. So someone said, what are you going to do if Trump loses? Look, if you go back to the Obama era, right? When this is where you had Vox, MSNBC, and the Young Turks, they started losing viewership. And they started losing, this whole thing, I'm sorry, it's just, it has a life of its own. They started losing public trust while Obama was president. Why? Here's why. Sure, the White House changed from Obama to Donald Trump. But when Obama was in the White House, for example, let's use the Young Turks or Daily Show or Colbert, any of these people. I think Colbert was still at Comedy Central. They were only cheerleaders. Think of this for a second, because if you work in the media, well, everyone in the media is left. We know that. I mean, for crying out loud, is Stephanopoulos there doing it? This guy worked for the Clintons as a communications director, okay? You have a leftist media, a leftist entertainment industry, and then you also happen to have a leftist in the White House who was whisked into the White House by the aforementioned establishments. The only thing that changed was Donald Trump became president. Now, we continually were gaining viewers and trust and subscribers when Obama was president and while Donald Trump was president. Why? Because the fight, the rebellion that I think all of us take pride in being a part of is not just about who's in the White House. If you would take the power of exclusively the White House over Hollywood and the entertainment industry and the media, you need a CAT scan. And that's why Donald Trump is, frankly, the only president that I've seen who has been effectively waging a war against biased media, which I think is long overdue. And I don't think that any other president would have done that at this time. You let me know. I was a Ted Cruz supporter in the primary. He's been on the show. He's a friend of the show. I like him too. I don't think that anyone out there would have been waging a war and shining a light on the biased media as they do now. So what happens if Donald Trump wins or loses? What we do is the same thing. First off, come election day, we're going to go out and vote. Then after election day, guess what we're going to be doing? We're going to be shining a light on the truth and entertaining people. It doesn't matter if Donald Trump is president or Joe Biden is president. Now, it matters, obviously, for the sake of the country, but I'm talking about our job. Our job is still to point out corruption and to point out double standards and to laugh at them, right? Humor is a rubber-tipped sword. I think Phyllis Diller said that. It's a way to make a point without drawing blood. You think that if Joe Biden is president, we're not going to have anything to rebel against? We're not going to have a fight? We're not going to have a way to get... That's why conservatives tend to come out in midterms. We're always mobilized because every institution in the country right now is stacked against you, with the exception of the White House and Senate. Thank God. Amy Coney Barrett. So I guess I say this because it's a question that I get so often. What about the polls? What about the polls? Well, I can tell you anecdotally that I don't trust a lot of what the media tells us because they were wrong before. And in my personal experience, even as recently as Lansing, where they said hundreds of people showed up when it was 3,000, they have a vested interest in making you feel hopeless. Okay? But it's on you to not allow that to happen. When I see people depressed out there who are conservatives, I go, what are you doing? What is this all for if you're moping around? There is so much for us to do. First off, to maintain a man who represents our values in the White House. But even if there's so much that you have to do on a day-to-day basis, rather than feeling upset, rather than just bitching about them, go out and change something. Go out and do something. It shouldn't change what you do. It shouldn't change who you are. And as conservatives, inherently, as Woody Allen said, we have a general problem with authority. And guess what? The authority isn't only the White House. So I want you to keep that in mind. And something else, by the way, I saw, I don't know if I can bring this up. Maybe I can toss an overlay in. A recent abstract, pretty extensive study on masks, and this will get fact-checked, in Scientific Reports. So it was a published study. And if you guys can read this, I'll put the link down below. It seems like it says throughout the entire study that N95 masks obviously are effective at reducing droplets and aerosols. But homemade cloth masks actually increase the aerosol droplets several-fold in coughing, in talking. And then at the end says, well, though we do think that masks can be effective. So every single paragraph I read shows that actually the homemade cotton masks are doing more harm than good, but the conclusion doesn't seem to match the results or the study. So again, I'm not a scientist here. I don't want YouTube to fact check this and take it down like they did when we were actually recommending masks if you were sick. Remember that in Mug Club Quarantine Month? We had Origin Maine, a sponsor of ours, actually just friends of ours. They weren't really officially sponsors. It's, I think Jocko works with them and makes some jiu-jitsu gis. and they were making masks, and we said, hey, good idea to maybe get some masks. We were fact-checked on YouTube here, and then it sent a link to the CDC where at that point they were saying, don't wear masks. It does more harm than good. Now there's another study where every single paragraph seems to read, again, it's in scientific reports here, I'll put the link down below, that masks, cotton masks, not N95 masks, do more harm than good. And then in conclusion, but, they're still probably a good idea. So scientists out there, let me know. I'm just a big old dummy, I'm sure, reading this, because us peasants shouldn't be allowed to read these studies. As for everyone else, listen, again, go to loudwithcredo.com, you Michiganders, and get your sign. You can just print your signs. Everything is free. You can print them. We gave out the signs free. You can print the Whitmer death toll signs yourself from the website. You can submit your freedom of your FOIA request for the actual death numbers. And by the way, don't let the media tell you that the only reason those 447 homes were included was because those were the only ones affected. Because 25% of all deaths in any given week, month, year come from old folks' homes. So does that mean there were 1,900 additional deaths? Again, we need to know the baseline budgeting. Governor Whitmer and Democrats, you should know about that, right? That's why we'll see 19 guys on the side of the road to fix a pothole that for some reason the next week is still there. I don't know what. Everyone else out there, I do want you to keep this in mind. Be happy, warriors. Go forward. Take everything with a grain of salt. It is anybody's game at this point. That means that you need to be mobilized, that you need to be active. And win, lose, or draw, it shouldn't change who we are. It doesn't change what we do. Tuesday night, the VP debates. Megyn Kelly will be there. We'll have drinking game rules. I'm looking forward to seeing you. And maybe I should just get a buzz cut.